Today, my guest is Scarlett Kennedy, a mysterious woman who writes under a pen name. No one knows who she really is or what she looks like. She's the author of books about dealing with people and manipulating people, like How to Make Someone Obsessed with You and How to Psychoanalyze Someone. Starting with a pressing question from one of our listeners, he'd like to know, what can I do to psychoanalyze my boss to see if he's going to fire me?
First of all, as soon as you start working there, I would keep track of his pattern behaviors and who he might favor the most, or the different members of the team, and his reactions to different things, like when things didn't work out or when things did work out. And because this person hasn't been hitting the goals, I would start looking at how he behaves towards me in comparison to the other people who are doing better, and try to please him. And even though, things aren't going as well, I would try to get on his good side. And the boss always has a weakness, like maybe people don't listen to him or take him seriously, or maybe people praise him too much. And I would work with the weaknesses and then try to make him favor me, and then also try to make it look like you guys need me. And even if, you're not doing well with sales, I would try to still make it seem like I do know what I'm doing and give the boss some hope.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you've done this before. What sort of experience do you have with these sort of approaches to work?
Well, my first job, there's two examples I could think of. My first job was at 16 as a telemarketer. And that was awful because I could lose that job anytime. And of course, you're 16 and you need some money to go out and have some fun with your friends. So I noticed all these different power dynamics in the work field, and they were letting people go already. And it was for this newspaper. And at the time, newspapers were already losing its, like the physical newspapers, they were already losing its appeal, and people were going digital. So I felt like I had to hold on to this job, and I looked at the power dynamics, and at the time it was mostly unconscious. But I felt like I knew because I grew up in a family where I needed to please everybody, as I told you in the first interview. So that was the first example. And about a year ago, I worked for a trading firm, and it was just dog eat dog. And if you didn't make a good trade, or you lost a certain amount of money, so they would give you a second chance. But usually the people that they gave a second chance to, no matter how many times they've messed up, they were very quote unquote charming to the boss. So, I think that one of the best traders who kept making mistakes, but they kept him, this guy knew the weaknesses of the boss, and he knew how to play with them and work with them and like make the boss feel like, okay, we need this guy. But in the background, this boss needed him to fulfill his egotistical needs. So that would be my answer to that question.
Mm-hmm. And you said when you went into that, you were observing the power dynamics. What do you mean by that? What would be examples of the power dynamics within the organization?
Any organization, or the specific ones I've mentioned?
The one that you experienced.
Oh, well, someone wanted to always be better than somebody and feel superior. And if you were a threat to their feeling of superiority, then they didn't like you as much. But you needed to still be good at what you did and superior to the other workers. You just couldn't be superior to your boss, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously your boss is going to have different duties and errands and things like that, but you can't make the boss feel like you're the boss. You have to make them feel like I'm better than the other employees, but I'm not better than you. So now you can feel safe around me. And then sometimes they'll even tell you little things about the organization that they won't tell other employees because they feel so safe and comfortable around you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was usually the power dynamic. And if they were going out to have drinks or something, there was always one person telling the stories and they had more life experience, and it made them feel superior. Like, I'm the best and I have the best life compared to all of you bunch of losers or something, you know? So, and of course, with the trading firms, it was always about who had the most money, who was the best trader, who had the most luxurious lifestyle. And, but the person who kept the most secret about it, they always wondered about that person. So they're always trying to put that person in the forefront and spotlight, and try to get to know what's your trading style. How are you successful with this?
Mm-hmm.
So that person also kind of had the most power after the boss, if that makes sense.
Yes, and this is kind of part of your power too. Is there's something in secrecy, in mystery, and I wonder how has that worked for you? Do you think being working under a pen name compared to maybe splashing things all over social media and being more open?
Um, that's a good question. So, well, people start wondering more about you, so they want to go to your work more.
Mm.
But so that's what I found has worked for me. And obviously that makes me different compared to other people, especially because most people who write about these things are male, and they're showing themselves. But now I'm different because I'm a female and I don't show myself. And you expect most females to try to show a photo of themselves or something revealing, or have an Instagram with all these things about how great their lives are. But I don't do that because, well, it makes me stand out, and it makes, I mean, it goes hand in hand with what I've written in the book about being mysterious and making people wonder about you.
Mm-hmm. And what sort of readers do you normally attract? What sort of response do you get from readers?
It's usually people, surprisingly very young people, who, I mean, I'm just being honest, who seem kind of lost. You know, they're trying to find their identity. They're either they've graduated high school, or they're in university or graduating university, and they want to be good at what they do, or they don't know what they want to do. So I get a lot of emails from people asking me to mentor them, or um, things like that, or I seem like I know what I'm doing or I have my stuff together. And how do I master the game of people?
Mm-hmm. What specifically are those people looking for? Is it the sort of work things that we've been talking about? Is it dating? Is it family? What topics are they excited about?
It's usually a mixture of both, but I found that it's mostly dating stuff, or they feel like I'm repulsive and I don't know what you look like, but you seem like you know what you're doing, so please help me out because I don't know what to do and I hate being rejected. So it's mostly that, and because they're graduating university or in university trying to find work and be above everybody, they have an interest in that. It's not, I don't get, I sometimes get stuff about family, but not, that's rare. Unless
Mm.
they've, been through a lot of things with their family and they can relate to my story, at least what they know about my story.
Sure. Yeah. You said that
hmm
they say something along the lines of "I'm repulsive." How does that conversation go? As I kind of understand it, there can be a power even in being repulsive. You're still getting an emotional response or a visceral response from people when you bother them.
Uh-huh. Oh, yes, there is a power in that. I do agree. So I asked them in what way. are you repulsive, and what evidence have you been given that you are repulsive? Like, responses from people. Do you believe, or people have said that you're repulsive physically, emotionally, or both? And then I try to find out, okay, if it's mentally or emotionally, then I try to find out why and look at our interactions and then see, okay, here's what you're doing. If it's physically, then there's still something to be done about that, because, well, all of this is mental. So you don't need to be physically attractive, and that's subjective. So I could find someone physically attractive and somebody else could say, no, that person is not. So that's subjective. So you can mold that person's mind into thinking, oh, yeah, you are attractive, even if you might not be conventionally attractive. So all of this is just mental. So that's how I work with the physical part.
That's interesting. How do you mold someone to believe that they're more attracted to you when you're not objectively attractive?
Okay, usually with these people, I try to say, okay, well, who are you attracted to, and who said this to you, and what kind of people physically are they attracted to? And then you look at the emotional aspect and see, okay, what emotional traits are they attracted to, and then try to show them that, but slowly and subtly. And then slowly, they start thinking, oh, maybe this person is attractive, but then they build this resistance. So you have to work around this resistance. And, there's probably some resistance like, oh no, but they're so unattractive, or they're they're not for me, or people are going to laugh at me or make fun of me. So you have to work around those objections, and then they kind of fall into this trap, Not, I shouldn't say trap, but you know what I mean. It kind of feels that way sometimes.
Sure. So, what would be an example of this? Like, what does this look like when you're working with someone?
Okay, so there was this guy, I don't know, what should we call him? We should call him, okay, we'll just say this man, that I worked with, and he was older, um and he liked a younger woman, but very she was out there, she was free, and like they were just very opposite, and they worked together. But every time he tried to approach her, she would kind of back away. She wasn't direct about it, but she would say things like, I'm busy, or I'm going out with my friends. And I told him, this might sound a little creepy, but I said, okay, so you can't talk to her, but she talks to these other coworkers of yours. So when you're sitting in the lunchroom or wherever you sit all together, try to listen in on what they talk about, and then slowly incorporate it into talking to her. So I think she liked some kind of genre of movies that he didn't really like. But I said, if you could get into it, then you could slowly talk to her about this. And then her resistance will fall down a little bit, and then slowly work with that. So, anyways, he did, and it worked. And then I think she ignored him for the next 2 days. And then she came up to him 2 days later, whenever she stopped ignoring him. And she says, hey, you told me that you like this thing, and I found this thing online, and here it is. So she let him borrow this thing. I'm sorry, I don't even remember what it is, because it was such a foreign genre to me. And I don't really watch movies anyway, so I wouldn't know. But so she let him borrow it, and then he took his time because he didn't really understand it, because he was like faking basically. And so he took his time and he did his research without her knowing. And she obviously asked him, so what did you think? And then he came to me and he said, she asked me, what do I think? And I said, okay, hold off on that and say, well, I have a shift, so but maybe we can talk about this over coffee. um so she she agreed, but then I think there was like some kind of what are those things called where you have to go to work, like they call you randomly or something, because there's an emergency at work. Okay, so that happened. Sorry, I don't know what those are called. But so that happened, and they rescheduled. So that gave him more time to think, okay, how am I gonna work into this girl's head and make her like me and become attracted to me? And then it leaves her thinking about what's gonna happen. What's he gonna say? Did he like what I showed him? Or, so that works on the mental aspect. And then it kind of slowly builds this curiosity, and then there's a little bit of resistance, but that's kind of a good thing because it makes it more fun. So, but then there was this obstacle where she starts, this new guy comes in, I think a few days later. Everything seemed to be going well, and this new younger guy came in, and apparently she found him attractive or something because she was being flirtatious with him. So I said, okay, I know you're jealous and you're upset, but try to see, okay, what's their common interest, or what are they talking about? Like, what does she react to that is positive? So he gave me a list or whatever he observed, and he worked with that. And then eventually I think she called, sorry, this might not be the best thing to say, but she called him one night, drunk, I guess, or maybe she was pretending, who knows. But because of course, if you use alcohol and if someone rejects you and you say, "Oh, sorry, I was just drunk," then it's more excusable. So, oh, I'm sorry about the dog, by the way. Okay, so she calls him and she goes, I'm starting to become so attracted to you, and I really like you, and maybe we can go out. And then, and she goes, I'm not feeling well. Can I just come over? And then things went from there, which, you probably know what happened. So anyways, after that, we just stopped working together because I wasn't of use to him anymore. Because he got what he wanted, it seemed. But then after that, he gave me an update, and he didn't like her anymore because she was just apparently just a huge wreck. So, well, at least he got what he wanted from the girl. I mean, it's not like he wanted a relationship, but it seemed like she wasn't right for him. So that was really unfortunate.
I wonder about this with your clients and people who slowly work into these relationships and they kind of put on a front. Do you find that they're satisfied often, or what's the relationship between this sort of front and actually having a deep connection with someone?
Well, most of them seem to be happy about it in the beginning, and then their egos grow a bit, and then they're hungry for power and they love it. And then it's almost like one day they wake up and they're like, oh crap, I can't maintain this because this isn't what I wanted. That power hungry thing is always just a phase, and it lasts different amounts of time for different people, but it never lasts. And if you're a complete narcissist, then it lasts forever, possibly. But yeah, usually it just lasts for a little while, and then they just don't maintain it because it's not who they are. Like you said, it's a front. And then they just break down, and things either break down with the person or they just completely lose it and they want to go off the grid. So that's usually the relationship. Or some people just completely enjoy it because they are, sorry, I hate to say this, but lost. So, but that's just the truth, of course. And that's also what happened with me. So
let's talk about that. So having this power and influence, it sounds exciting. At the same time, you say that people get tired of it. I'm looking at a screenshot I pulled from your blog. It says, the About section below was written about 5 years ago. I have a different power.
Uh-huh.
It's called money. While I still love and enjoy the power of obsession and knowledge, now think of this. You're using these techniques to make someone obsessed with you. All caps, why the fuck do I have to spend all my precious time creating tactics and analyzing you? Does this person mean that much to you? I can and have pleased/fulfilled all my needs on my own just fine, and I'll go to the extent of saying I've done it better than most people I've had relationships. With money, I don't need to strategize. I used all these techniques to get money and say fuck you to everyone else in my life constantly clinging on to me and burdening my life by acting like children. If I wanted kids, I would have gone off and had some. Now I'm free. I don't want to fulfill your needs, only my own. Once I learned of all my needs, I fulfilled them and realized no one but myself should fulfill them. So my advice is this. Don't use these techniques to make someone else obsessed with you. You're only wasting time. Use these techniques to make money and stop being a slave to people's needs because you can't do it on your own. That was probably written a while ago. What have you learned since then?
I learned that when I first started this journey, I was lost. Obviously, I was very young and confused, and I didn't feel good about myself, and so I thought other people are going to make me feel good. I didn't think that consciously, but now I know that I was thinking that. And then I thought, I started dating people that were wealthy and they provided for me. And then eventually I started hating that because they had this power over me while I had power over them. It was different powers that were, rubbing against each other. That was not good. And I started becoming resentful and hateful. And I thought, well, I want to have all the power and feel powerful and empowered. So why don't I do something productive with this and have a good career and then eventually make so much money where I don't have to deal with anyone. This is what a lot of people at the trading firm wanted, the non-egotistical people. There was this one guy who said to me, I'm going to make so much money and retire really young in my 30s. And I don't have to deal with people and all this stupid power dynamic crap. So I thought, wow, he has a really good point. And you just get tired of doing all these stupid, I'm not saying it's stupid. Well, I guess in a way I am, but you just get tired of doing this and you build this mindset where you look at people and you start analyzing them and you think, what am I going to extract from you? And then once you mature and you grow up, you think, what am I going to get from this? I feel a little bit of power, but I want this feeling power to last and be productive. And there's nothing productive about manipulating people unless there's a benefit, like you get money from it. I guess in a way they benefit from it as well, because then they give in sometimes. But you just get tired of doing these things, and then you don't even know what you get from it besides some emotional thrill for a few hours, and then you go home and you feel a little lonely and it's not fulfilling, and you get older and you think, oh, I really hurt this person. And it wasn't right or correct or something, So that's what I've learned since the years that I've started this whole thing. But I continue it because I am more disconnected from it, so I can see better. I'm not fully immersed and obsessed with getting all the power, and I feel power in a different way, and and you can obviously use these things to get money, so you don't need to rely on people or rely on people for status or anything like that.
So are you saying then that money is the power that you would choose? it's the best thing, the most valuable power?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say your mind is you've acquired all the knowledge and you can use it to your advantage when you need to. And obviously you need to have that confidence within yourself, but having the money is a huge bonus because then you really don't have to deal with people anymore, and you don't have to worry about manipulating them or how am I going to fulfill their needs or their lacks, same thing, their ideals and all that stuff.
Hmm. And you said that sometimes people benefit because they give in. How is giving in to being manipulated a benefit?
Because, well, based on the first book and the second one, of course, you have to look at what they're lacking in their lives, what their ideals are, what they wish could have happened, their fantasies, and then you give that to them. So they benefit in that way. But then also you pull back and then they start wanting more, of course. So I mean the first part is how they benefit, but then wanting more is not how they benefit. That's how you benefit.
Hmm. What are the people that the people choose to pursue or date or manipulate? What do those choices say about a person? Does that also say what they lack, or what does that indicate to you?
The people who decide to do this stuff, these things.
Yeah, if someone is choosing to manipulate someone, and what does the person that they choose say about them? It seems we can tell something
Oh,
about people by the partners that
mhm.
they choose, but how do you spell that out?
Well, it yeah, it always says something about who they are and what they want and what they need. So I usually look at patterns, and if I don't see any patterns because I just met them or something, I only know one person, I I just see, okay, how do they react to certain behaviors of this person? What make makes them a little tick? Um, and then I start trying to see, okay, here's a pattern in this person's behavior. This is most likely what they need and what they want in a person, and this is how they're going to feel power. Let's say, um, the typical that I usually see is a guy who goes after a girl, but she's broken to them, or well, actually, they're broken in general, and they have a lot of issues, but this person's a rescuer. Then that shows that, okay, this is either how this person grew up. They didn't really have much of a childhood. They need to rescue themselves, because usually that's projection. Um, so they want, and of course it makes them feel superior. Okay, I'm needed, so I'm going to find someone who is broken and I can fix them, and then I'll feel even more superior. So that's just a typical example that I always see of people who come to me,
Hmm.
what they deal with.
What would be other examples?
um a girl who wants someone who has money, and usually to me that says you either grew up in a household where, it's, the girl wants to be a housewife, or she's provided for or something like that, or she just doesn't feel like she can make the money on her own, so she feels like she has to find some wealthy person, um, or she feels like that with every need in her life, like she has to be provided for because she's lost, and usually that's how they seem anyways. They seem lost and confused, so they want someone to be making all the decisions for them and providing for them because they feel lost and they can't provide for themselves. So that's one example. um another example usually I see is, it's usually men who come to me, by the way. um there's a girl that is, mm, on the more promiscuous side. And so they want to tame her. But that's also a variation of the rescuer. Or they have some kind of view on women that they can't be that way. And obviously maybe it wouldn't be good if they were that way when they were with a partner. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they're trying to rescue the girl from that life because they think that's wrong. Because they think a girl should be sort of like a stay-at-home girl. Or that's just, you know, and it's usually like religious men who say that to me. So in a way, they're trying to mold the girl into the, you know, good girl, mm-hmm. non-promiscuous type, faithful, monogamous, all that.
Mm-hmm. We talked about a woman seeking men who have money because she feels like she needs to accumulate money. What was it like for you as you were making this journey and accumulating money? Were you using your skills in the workplace or socially to accumulate money, or both? I'm imagining that that Anna Delphi character. I don't know if you've heard of this woman. There's a whole Netflix series about her just becoming a socialite and things like that. What was it like for you?
Okay, so that's interesting because I did use it socially and in the workplace. So it started when I graduated high school very young, and because I hated high school, so I figured, you know what, I hated school, period. So I figured, you know what, I'm gonna use this dislike of school to get out of here as early as I can. So I had no idea what to do with my life, and I had a friend who was just wild and crazy, and she told me that I should find wealthy friends and they're going to provide for me and become a housewife and everything. And I never actually ever thought about that either. I just thought, oh, maybe I'll take a year or two off and I don't know what, but I'll figure something out. Anyway, so she kind of like introduced me to this life. But I didn't like it because I just thought, well, this is odd. But then I started feeling my self-doubt come up and started feeling like I won't be able to get into university or college. I won't be able to do all this stuff. So I'm going to just rely on a person. So eventually I would go out with this friend of mine and we would meet people downtown. I was very outgoing at the time. I'm more reserved now. And it was a very wealthy part of downtown. And anyway, so we would go there and we'd meet people, and then I started using these skills, and then they eventually started introducing me to people, and I started getting invited to all these big VIP parties and everything. So I got to meet a lot of people who were successful, and they would give me all these tips, and then eventually I started meeting people who would be interested in me romantically. So they helped me out financially. And I just got so tired of that, and I didn't like that. So eventually I thought, well, I need to be more independent because I can't do this or live like this anymore. And this one guy actually had persuaded me. He said, you can't, I know what kind of girl you are. And I thought, well, what does that mean? Are you going to start something with me? Like some kind of passive aggressive argument here? And he goes, I think you're smart and independent, but you need to start becoming that way and showing it. And you can't rely on a person for the rest of your life because people can be fickle. So don't do that. And I actually thought, well, I had resistance to that statement at first, and I thought, I don't like you anymore. I don't want to talk to you because that like created resistance, of course. So, but then I actually went home that night and I thought about it, and I even did a bunch of dramatic things that night, and I called my friend and I said, I don't think I can do this, and she goes, no, don't. And so we went for this walk around town and talked about it, and I asked her, what is the point of this for you? And she told me what I told you, that she doesn't feel like she can do it on her own. So eventually I just tried for a bunch of universities and colleges, and I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I did a bunch of programs and courses, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just end up like one of those really wealthy people, but what could I go to university for to end up like those people? And I realized that well, I think I could be a good business person. And a lot of the wealthiest people I knew were business people or traders. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll be a trader because that seems the easiest. So, and then, I use these skills in university to be good with the professors and the other students. Sometimes it didn't work with the other students because there's a lot of heads and egos clashing. But that's okay. I accepted that as part of the process. And yeah, so anyways, and then I started using it in the workplace and then with my family and in dating as well. But I ultimately did not find any fulfillment or happiness with that, because I always felt like I had to maintain a lot of stuff, and I didn't like that, and a lot of fronts, and then I started questioning who I was, and I didn't even want to be around half the people that I was using these things on, especially people at the trading firms. I hated doing that too, because they were just not people that I liked, and they weren't nice, and they had different values, and and there was a lot of drugs involved, the stereotypical trading firms, a lot of people doing like coke and everything like that. So I didn't like being around that either. And I was surrounded by males, so it was a lot, disrespectful males. There's nothing wrong with being surrounded by males as long as they're fine. But, they were the stereotypical males in those movies that you see. So I'm not denying that there is reality in that. So that was hard. And then eventually I wasn't happy with any of these things that I was doing. And I started feeling pathetic, because I thought, well, I should feel powerful knowing these things and doing these things, but I didn't. So yeah.
So what happened next?
Oh, eventually I just got so fed up. Okay, sorry, I was on a bunch of stories. Okay, with work, I just got fed up, and then eventually I ended up making a lot of bad trades, and I was burnt out, and I was tired because it was a lot of long work hours. So I think I unconsciously did that on purpose, like sabotaging my careers at these trading firms. But I felt so much relief, And then with dating, I sabotaged those as well. And then I said I wasn't good for the person, which I didn't feel that way anyways. And I just didn't feel like it was right. And I didn't feel like I would be good to date because of the things that I was doing, because it wasn't genuine. And most of those people wanted, or at least they claimed they wanted, something real and genuine, which I, from the beginning, did not provide, which was like, it was like my morals and ethics were starting to really grow and build on me. So I had to end those. And with my family, well, that's still ongoing, because that's just a huge mess, like of power games and dynamics. So I try to avoid them as much as possible. which is best for everybody except for them, because then they can't play power games with me. So that is what happened with
And
all
then
those things.
and then what happened with the big boon and all the financial success? You said you made a bunch of bad trades. How did we go from that to I have it here. With money, I don't need to strategize. I used all these techniques to get money.
Oh, okay. So basically, obviously I made a lot of money working as a trader, so I would save it, invest it, and so I knew which investments to choose to make good money, and I knew what people like, so I used it in the marketing for these books. But it was mostly I saved up a bunch of money and dividends from my stock investments, and I started trading it on my own. So I am contemplating going back to a trading firm, but there's different types of trading firms, so I don't have to go back to like a hedge fund or anything. Yeah, so I just saved the money and I invested it in a new marketing, and I invested in some personal businesses of people that I knew that I helped them become successful, of course, because I know business and I have a degree in business. So that's what happened. But after the big trades, the big losing trades, I was given a second chance for one of the firms, and then I made another bad big trade, and I was happy to get fired. But I still had money saved. I think I have good money management, so it's not like I blew all the money from working as a trader on useless things.
So with these skills that you have and that you help people with, I wonder, what do you think has changed since COVID? There's the phrase building up resistance keeps coming up, and then you mentioned situations where people could just casually bump into each other. It seems there's less of that. What do you see working for people now?
Well, now more people are going online and starting online businesses. So if you're talking or flirting with someone online, you can use these tactics. And you can use these for your marketing plan if you're starting some kind of online business, or even if you're applying for a remote job. You can use that in an interview or during your remote job meetings.
Well, what would that look like? It seems that some of this requires multiple points of contact. You're looking for patterns in people. If you have few interactions, how do you use patterns, or do you use something else?
Okay, I can only tell you from what I've heard from other people, because I don't do that. So, well, basically, you look at their profiles, and then you see what they like, and then try to talk about that with them, but see if there's any differences. Are they lying? Are they telling the truth? How much do they like this? And then is there a deeper reason why they do like this? And I would try to get into deeper topics, but without coming on too strong. So you could start off with saying, I noticed on your profile, that you said that you like, okay, let me think of something. You said you like comedy movies. Okay, why? And then I would try to build up some kind of sentiment, or bring up some kind of sentimental memory. Okay, what was the best comedy movie you've ever watched? And what was your favorite scene? And then kind of build up on that, because usually some people say, oh yeah, this scene was so funny, or this scene was the best, and then some people might relate it to their real life, some people won't. But then I would just keep them talking, and if they're quiet, I would take charge, and ask all the questions, but be relatable at the same time. And if it doesn't work out, I would just move on and find somebody else.
What else do you do to protect yourself, as you know the offensive side of manipulation? What do you do on defense?
Online or in general?
Whichever you choose.
Okay, in general, I'm just gonna choose in general because I don't do anything online like that. So I would keep as much information about myself as possible, and then I would be elusive with my answers. So I actually wrote this down for somebody. Do you mind if I look this up?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so here it is. So someone had asked me, I hope they don't mind, what are basically the same thing. So I would not lose focus on my intention. So if you have a certain goal or intention, I would not lose focus on that. And okay, don't trigger them because you don't know what people are capable of. So if you know someone's weaknesses, make them feel safe and make them feel like they could trust you the most, but don't trigger them and say, oh, your dad said this and that to you, or don't do that, okay? Because someone could go into a rage, someone could try to ruin your life. You don't know. I would try to not get involved with anybody that they know or be friends with them. When I say involved, I just mean friends or try to meet them. Yeah, don't tell them any of your weaknesses, or even if it's a perceived weakness. Actually, if it is a perceived weakness that can be used to your advantage, then that's fine. But otherwise, don't tell them things like, I have a weak spot for, I'm a rescuer or something, because they could use that against you if they know what they're doing. And again, don't ever assume that the person that you're doing these things to is good or is beneath you, because again, that just keeps you safe, because then you just don't know what people are capable of. So I would do those things to protect myself. I wouldn't mind telling them my name, but I wouldn't, if you don't know them right away, then yeah, probably don't tell them your full name or your address, but that's common sense.
It sounds like you know all of this from experience. Have you had any situations where you've ticked somebody off who surprised you?
Yeah, there was many people, but there was this one person who turned out to be very dangerous. He was from my workplace, from a training firm. Sorry. Sorry, I just need to clear my throat.
Take your time.
Thank you. So, okay, this guy. Okay, I'll just say this guy. Sorry, I don't even know like what names to call them. Okay, so we worked together, and there was a really bad incident at my job where, actually, there were two bad incidents. So, I told you, a lot of people, there's a lot of long work hours, and then there's just a really bad traumatic situation. So, but I don't mind sharing. Okay, so there were two bad situations while I was working at that firm. And okay, so there was a competing firm in Nigeria, or they were based in Nigeria. I can't remember. They had an office in Nigeria, and they were competing with them. There was some kind of weird legal situation that I don't think I understand to this day. And then there are a lot of people who did drugs because, I was a currency trader. Well, I still am, but I was trading currencies for the firm. And a lot of them, it's 24 hours a day, and a lot of them were doing drugs, and there was a lot of power plays, so, cocaine added to that. And I was at this meeting, basically, where this guy, sometimes people they give you summaries of how the market is going, called a market summary, every start of a trading session. And so this one guy was doing it, but in the background, you could actually hear people there, but they were quiet. You can hear them ingesting the substance, basically. But it was very subtle. But I could hear it because I know what that sounds like, so I'm not going to dismiss it. And so this guy forgets that he has his microphone on because he says, okay, we're going to take a little break and whatever else. So this guy forgets he has his microphone on, and you can hear him doing it. And there were new traders at the firm because a lot of people got fired. And I was one of the only people left. And anyway, so this guy actually overdosed and he died. And yeah, and I heard it all.
Oh.
And I mean, it was very slow in a way, like, sorry, this is just really bad remembering this. Okay, so it was really slow. Like you hear it, and then you kind of hear this, his mouth kind of bubbling or something. There was like a weird bubbly noise, and then you hear a girl go, "Oh my God," and then you just hear a loud thud, like the guy falls or something, and just all these people screaming, and they don't know what to do. They're high off their brains. So anyways, that was really traumatizing, hearing the guy die. And later on, one of the higher ups, he texts me and he says, "I'm so sorry that you had to hear that," because I was texting my other coworkers and saying, "What is going on? Can you please get on this call? Is this a joke? Is this, it's like someone needs to call the hospital. These people obviously don't know," or an ambulance. These people obviously don't know what they're doing. I don't know how much they've ingested. And anyways, so so they get on and they hear it, and then basically they had texted me and confirmed that he had died, and which was really traumatizing. And anyway, so I felt really bad, and one of the guys, the higher ups, who had texted me, was worried that I was going to sue. Out of all things, like, he was worried that I was going to sue. So he came to my house, and I was trying to get on his good side. So I had used all these tactics and everything. And so he came to my house, and then he started, being all nice to me and saying, "Hey, are you all right? Maybe, do you need some counseling? We could pay for it." And obviously I didn't want anything to do with these people anymore because I was trying to quit. And eventually, like, he said that I was being nice to him and I was coming on to him and all that stuff. And I wasn't. Actually, I had a boyfriend at that time, which I still do now. So that was really disrespectful. And I think I'd actually told people just to make sure that they didn't get any wrong ideas. But they started getting the wrong ideas, especially that guy. And the worst part is I think he was married or engaged to be married or something along those lines. So that was awful. And then he started harassing me to the point where cops had to be involved. And I actually personally knew some cops, so it was easier. But then I started getting shit from, oh, sorry, am I allowed to say that? Okay, so I started getting shit from one of the cops saying, "What are you doing? Why are you leading this guy on?" And the cop knew that I was already committed to somebody, so that was really bad. I was just trying to get on this guy's good side so maybe I could get a promotion to be a senior trader. But, that didn't work out. So that's I think a very good example of what your question.
You mentioned that you have a boyfriend. Does he know
Yes.
about your secret identity?
He does now. He didn't know before. I took so long to tell him. I mean, I told him at first, and I didn't want to say what I did or my name or anything, but then eventually we'd moved in together, so I thought, well, I guess it's time to tell him because this is not going away. And every time I think it's going away, it doesn't. The Scarlett thing. If I don't write anything and I'm still, trying for the people who do read my stuff. I think it's going to go away, but then it doesn't. And people still read my work and email me and ask for help and all that. So it's not going away, I don't think, anytime soon. It's been years now. So I had to tell him eventually. And so now he knows. He even knows that I'm doing this interview and he's in the other room.
And what are you working on next for those people who are your loyal readers who stick with you?
I am working on a third book about how to make the masses, how to influence the masses, basically. So the first book was about making one person obsessed with you. And so I wanted to escalate it because I thought, well, why one person? Why not do a lot of people? Because these people, I realized something. These people who come to me are in university. They want to fit in. They want to fit into the crowds in university. They want to fit in to the places they're going to work at, or if they're entrepreneurs, maybe they want to, influence people to buy their products or within the workplace. So I figured this is going to help people. So I actually created this little survey on my site and asked them what they wanted next. And so this book had won the survey.
And
so I'm
what,
working.
And what are you suggesting? Can we get a sneak preview? Is there sort of a core idea that you're trying to get across?
Yes, there is a core idea. So basically there's steps, which I don't remember at the moment, but I know there's about 5 to 10 steps. So first of all, have a goal. What or who are you trying to influence? And then why? And know what kind of people are going to actually fulfill your goals. And where are you going to find these people? And usually I had tried to encourage people to do it online because it's easier and well, it's easier to find these people, then you can find their patterns. And so what kind of people, what are their problems and how are you going to solve their problems? And then how are you going to be the one that's superior to them so you can influence them, but at the same time be relatable? So it feels like you're a friend, but it feels like you're a friend, but you're also the leader of the group. So that's the sneak preview for now.
All right. Well, before I ask my last question, for people who want to get more, where should they look for you online?
Okay, so right now I did have a website, but I've just stuck to WordPress. So it would be themanipulativebitch.wordpress.com. There might be a newsletter, but pops up, so you can sign up if you want.
All right. Well, we'll put links to that in the description for people to check out. And Scarlett Kennedy, my final question is, for people who want to connect with someone, they want to have a more socially fulfilling life, and they're meeting resistance, what can they do to connect with someone quickly?
I would find out their weakness and their fantasy and their lack, and I would provide that for them. Or if you can't find out what they lack, then you can find out what if there's something that they've wanted to happen in their life, and then provide that for them, even if it's just an experience. Or let's say, someone wanted to travel to Paris or something, you can provide some kind of indirect Paris experience. Or what does Paris symbolize to them, and then give that to them.
Well, Scarlett Kennedy, thank you for taking the time to talk with me and to share all of this. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thanks for watching this episode. To help get more great guests on the show, be sure to subscribe.